All it takes is for you to be exposed to the right information. Once you've been exposed to the right information, the possibilities become endless. Go and study your charts to understand how this box methodology applies fractally on any single time frame. Whether you want to swing trade, whether you want to day trade or scalp, understanding what moves the markets, why the markets do what they do, where the fuel comes from, expectational order flow, identifying institutional zones will always put you on the right side of the market and allow you to get a crystal clear understanding of each and every trade that you take, the reasoning behind your trade, your targets, your risk to reward, your risk management, and ultimately always being on the right side of the market. The three main steps to smart money: banks, financial institutions, whales that are pumping millions of dollars into the market, is identifying your structure story, understanding which point in the market is your protected lows or protected highs, and which of your highs and lows are weak for expectational order flow to go and target. Identify the institutional zones that is creating the reason behind your structure story. Identifying an institutional supply or demand zone that has created a strong and protected structural low or high. Vice versa, identifying those weak structural highs that you can look to target from those institutional zones. And then finally, entry confirmation. Triple M, which is a triple break of structure to the upside, Wyckoff, change of character, flip zone, anything that gives you confirmation that demand buyers, there's a lot of demand coming into the market off a higher time frame point of interest, takes over supply and takes over the sellers that are in control, will give you your confirmation to take entries from those protected lows or protected highs to target those relative weak highs or weak lows. Just to quickly recap, a great example that played out this morning. Even though today is a bank holiday in the United States, markets will always follow its structure story, respect those protected lows, target those weak highs, and respect your institutional zones. So hopping into session this morning on Euro USD, we had beautiful playout of bullish order flow on a lower time frame, but understanding our higher time frame structure story. We had areas of an M15 strong protected low. We're respecting institutional S&D areas, which is supply and demand, at the M15 strong protected lows to continue targeting these M15 expectational highs. Who's to say price might not even target these expectational weak highs? We could just completely fall through from supply zones over here to target the M15 strong lows, which then all the changes is this will become, after that pullback, your M15 weak low with your strong protected high. So then all that changes is your expectational order flow is for a bit of an M15 pullback, that shift to the downside to continue targeting those M15 weak lows. To also understand at the 4-hour time frame, we do to mitigate deeper areas of demand. So what price is doing on the M15 is catering for that overall 4-hour pullback phase into deeper areas of demand at the overall 4-hour swing strong. So the entire structure story, mechanics and system that I talk about here at MM Funded is a fully mechanical system that will always keep you on the right side of the markets. It will always keep you in line with the banks, financial institutions that are pumping money into the market so that you can see the markets in a much more clear manner and understand the reasoning behind every single trade that you take. So what I'm going to do in today's video right here on YouTube, I'm going to post one of my morning live stream webinars where I go into session every single morning with my members, going over trade plan, going over markup, so that every single member has that understanding of what we can expect from price going into session. So this morning on Euro USD on the M15 and M5 time frame, let me just quickly remove all of these Koki pens completely in the way here. All right, so over here on the M15, which is where we started stream this morning at about 8:30, 9 o'clock. We came over to the 5-minute time frame using our Fractal 2-box methodology, which identifies expectational order flow, your institutional zones that are currently in control going into session. We most recently had a H1 fractal break of structure to the upside. These boxes is your H1 fractal structure, which we had that shift to the upside as we were going into session, understanding that this institutional zone became in control going into London session, because this zone has 4 specific criteria that makes it an institutional zone. All right, the biggest mistake that most supply and demand, smart money concepts, ICT, whatever trader you are, the biggest mistakes that they make is they will go and highlight every possible fair value gap, every possible supply and demand zone, this candle here as a demand, this candle here potentially as a supply, this candle over here as a supply zone. But every single institutional level needs to have 4 strict criteria that makes it a valid supply and demand zone / institutional level. All right, those 4 criteria is each and every level needs to create the break of structure or change of character. Point number 2, it must create a fair value gap or imbalance push. Point number 3, LQ buildup, so it must have liquidity to sweep into that zone. And point number 4, most importantly, unmitigated. It mustn't have been previously mitigated by another fulfillment of the candles. So for example, over here we have a valid SND fractal range, which price has already mitigated. So looking for further entries from the zone wouldn't be valid because orders have already been fulfilled by financial institutions at this institutional level, which the latest S&D zone after going into session on Euro USD, we had this fractal break of structure to the upside. We actually then created right over here, triple M entry confirmation, which is a triple break of structure on a lower time frame, all the way down to the 1 and the 5 second, which identifies bullish order flow. Institutions, whales, big financial banks are entering bullish order flow and pumping money and orders into this POI, which is your confirmation to go for longs to target the relative weak highs. Also understanding that this demand zone has created an M15 strong structural low. Your previous strong structural low was this low over here. All right. Break of structure, pullback, protected low, weak high. Targeting that weak high, pullback, protected low, weak high targeted, pullback, protected low, targeting that weak high targeted, pullback. So right now we have the M15 strong, protected low, the weak high. So expectational order flow is just to continue following this out through the day, which is exactly the trade that we caught this morning. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to post the stream from this morning. I really recommend pay attention to the stream. It's going to be quite long. It's about an hour-long video. Get some coffee, relax, pay attention, make notes, get a notepad with you on your phone or your PC, write notes. If you can't watch the full video, save it to your watch later, put the notification bell on, and make sure you graft through this video. All right, I'm not here to spoon feed you. I'm not here to sell you $2,000 courses. I'm here documenting my journey as a $500,000 funded trader from South Africa that trades for a full time for about 6 years now, understanding price action, the reason behind what it does. Most people want to come into this game trying to make money off the bat. It's taken me years, but it gets to the point where it actually becomes really simple. Trading is one of the most hardest, easiest games out there. Once you can master being on the right side of the market, the possibilities are endless. Now, I didn't have access to the type of mentorships, the type of knowledge and information that is around today, 5-6 years ago. So make use of it while it's still around and make note of all of the concepts that I'm about to explain to you today. If you guys want to get access to my live streams where I will live stream with you, mentor you to become your own independent, profitable and consistent trader, I live stream with my members every single morning, 8:30 a.m. GMT +2, and just before New York session, 2:30 p.m. GMT +2. I will leave a link down below. There's also a full section 1 to 7 institutional trading course that will allow you to be on the right side of the markets every time you hop onto the charts, mark up your charts, and get that clear, crystal understanding of what price is doing. Again, that will be the link, first link down below in the description. Enjoy the stream, and I'll see you at the end of the video. Hey, good morning, guys. Pretty sure the stream today there won't be too many of us, as today is a public holiday. Well, bank holiday in the United States. I don't think many of us will be trading today, but that's okay. It won't stop us from going forward, doing our trade plan and analysis, potentially going into session tomorrow. Do you guys have a great weekend? Just to double check, mic is clear, screen is clear. So we can do our usual pairs, GU, XAU, Euro USD, then any other pairs that you guys would like to request. Okay, I've just quickly started the recording so I can post that straight after in the London webinar section. All right, guys, so GBP USD, we still 4-hour swing structure bullish. So expectational order flow is potentially going into this week or this month is mitigation of supply areas that is currently in control internally on the 4-hour to then continue bearish into deeper areas of demand before looking for that shift to the upside to then continue riding price higher towards the 4-hour week highs. Okay, so M15 time frame as we move into GBP USD this morning, you'll see London session most likely is going to be very slow today, just kind of wobbling along into areas of supply following this fractal demand chain at the moment, which 2-box entry actually gave some beautiful opportunity this morning, but I'll cover that just in a bit. Let's first continue with our M15 internal time frame. So most recently on the 4-hour internal, we've had this break of structure to the downside, which was created by this strong high. We then had that break of structure to the downside, mitigated the daily demand level at 4-hour towards 4-hour strong low levels, and at discounted areas of pricing. We then had that M15 shift to the internal shift to the upside, that pullback into areas of demand to then continue with that 4-hour internal pullback. We then mitigated areas of supply at the 4-hour internal strong high, and then we've had that internal shift to the downside, putting this area of supply currently in control. So what we can expect perhaps today, as price moves very slowly, is some more bullishness heading into this area of supply. We then want to look for that supply to demand takeover to potentially then start looking for shorts to target these internal weak lows and sweep all of this lower time frame trend line liquidity. Okay, so yeah, these would be my valid POIs. This is the entire supply fractal range from this fractal high to the fractal low that created the break of structure to the downside, and all of this over here is inefficiency that needs to be fulfilled. And then we have our refined supply candle, which is this candle all the way up to up over here. You can even refine this to the wick over here if you want to, but I'm just going to keep it at this candle for now, as I don't think price will reach here today. Yeah, then 2-box entries this morning, just 5-minute fractal demand levels in control with our 1-hour fractal structure. So my 2-box is set to the 1-hour, which is all of these boxes is your 1-hour candles, which is your 1-hour fractal breaks of structure to the upside. So over here, 1-hour fractal break, pullback into demand, targeting those fractal weak highs. Fractal break of structure, fractal pullback into demand, targeting those fractal weak highs. Fractal break of structure, fractal pullback into fractal areas of demand to continue targeting those weak highs. So now we have these areas of demand in control. So fractal pullback, fractal break of structure to the upside, targeting those fractal highs. So that's just currently what's playing out this morning quite slowly. So yeah, if I had to look for entries on GBP USD, this would be my valid potential wick demand area, now actually creating this inducement. Unless price actually then creates this break of structure, then we'll just have a new demand level here, which will currently be in control following this bullish order flow into the areas of supply. Okay, so you guys happy with GBP USD? Again, really clean price action from GU last week. 2-box system flowing out beautifully. So we started last week Monday. I only started trading on Tuesday. And yeah, beautiful order flow of GU following the weak lows, mitigating supply and demand zones with perfect entry confirmations. Okay, so yeah, last week was a total of was close to 15 risk to reward, just using 2-box with the understanding of the 3 structure types, your H4 swing, M15 internal, and then your 2-box is basically your fractal structure within the M15 structure. Okay, you guys happy with GU? Can we move on to Euro USD? Okay, awesome. Let's move on to EU. Okay, EU 4-hour time frame. We are still swing structure long-term bullish. So we want to see potentially these weak highs get targeted going through the rest of this year into next year. So what we could potentially see is we've had a reaction of the daily demand range, the entire fractal range, which was there, this fractal high to this fractal low, which we've then mitigated. What we potentially can see now is a fall through of the M15 strong into the refined area of demand to then look for that bullish shift to continue longs targeting these internal 4-hour highs and potentially even the overall 4-hour week high. So until this 4-hour strong is either broken to the downside or respected, higher time frame intention and order flow is expected to remain bullish, so that would be bullish in bias. However, internal time frame, we are currently bearish. So if we come over to the M15 time frame, let me just remove this cookie. There we go. Throughout Euro USD on last week Friday after NFP, we just continued with price respecting areas of supply. This was a valid wick zone. All right, price sweeping this entire range. This is another example of a range. So if we actually put a box over this, a flat range, how price likes to sweep both sides. So we often get that sweep to the downside, the sweep to the upside, and then price continuing in that expectational order flow direction to deeper areas of demand. So price at the moment has failed extreme areas of demand, which puts these areas of supply. So this can actually be your entire supply fractal range. Again, very similar to GBP USD, and your refined candle can be this candle up here. So what we can expect from EU going into this week potentially is a bit of bullishness, again, following this fractal demand chain into areas of supply before looking for that shift to then continue. Bearish, I know this is an M15 swing strong, but understanding that this as well is perfect double bottom liquidity for the more extreme zone. We could see a sweep of that into the more extreme demand of the daily time frame to then look for that a bit of more structure, that shift to the upside to then continue long, targeting the internal highs, and potentially long-term price could even want to go and target those overall 4-hour week highs. Okay, very more lower probability setup is price could want to completely fail these demand areas and break the 4-hour strong. Then all that changes, this would become your 4-hour strong high. You would then create that new 4-hour week low. So expectational order flow then long term would be for price to then continue with a bit of a pullback to target those week lows. So yeah, that's the beautiful thing about structure and order flow. Again, you just follow it through and react to what price is giving you. You don't need to now sit here, try and predict, okay, we can look for longs on these demand areas, place limits, trying to force trades. We wait for price to get there and rather react to what price is printing. Is demand taking over supply on the lower time frames, which will then confirm for price to go long. Okay, so yeah, if we have a look at, just quickly recap 2-box on Euro USD. Okay, again, looks like we had a really nice opportunity for longs. So over here, just before session, we had this internal break of structure to the upside, okay, which puts these areas of demand in control. Instead, over here, price mitigated the overall demand fractal range to continue targeting those fractal weak highs. Okay, we've then had this fractal break of structure to the upside, which puts these areas of demand in control, which price has just currently created nice liquidity for the zone. So potentially a sweep looking for valid longs here to continue targeting these fractal highs, riding price further into these deeper areas of supply. Okay, so yeah, that's potentially what we can expect from EU. The markets will be closed in US session, so at the moment we're in London. Again, I don't think price action will be very volatile or fast today. We most likely will just see price kind of trading along, and then tomorrow as US session starts, we'll start to see that volatility. Okay, so you guys happy with Euro USD? And the order flow that's currently playing out, also quite clean. This week, Euro USD wasn't as clean as GU. Price often running without you from supply and demand zones, especially on the 2-box. But again, That's okay. Some weeks are great, some weeks are not. That's just how price action works. Okay, can we move over to XAU USD? Guys happy with EU? Okay, let's move over to XAU USD M15 time frame. Just to quickly recap the 4 hour. Yeah, so 4 hour time frame. Expectational order flow is still to target the 4 hour week highs. We're actually coming off now the daily demand fractal range, and then we have refined candles down here and here. So potentially if price takes out this internal strong high, we can then see a pullback into these areas of demand to continue targeting these internal 4 hour highs and potentially the overall 4 hour swing week high. Okay, if price reacts off these supplies, we look for that confirmation, then price will most likely continue targeting these internal week lows and mitigate further into the daily demand ranges to then look to continue its bullishness to target these 4 hour week highs. Okay, so that's potentially what we can see for the rest of the month, or even potentially the rest of the year. Going on to the M15 internal time frame. Okay, gold has been targeting those week highs beautifully throughout the week. So last week, Friday, we had the M15 break of structure to the upside. Let's just actually quickly mark out our M15 structure. Yeah, so the most recent strong low that we had was this strong low over here. All right, so this was the M15 boss. M15 pullback targeting those week highs. So this is the lowest point after the pullback that created the next break of structure. So we can go and mark this out as the M15 strong. Price never really started its pullback until this internal break of structure to the downside. So this can become our M15 week high. Okay, so expectational order flow going into the week is still to continue targeting these M15 week highs and potentially even follow through the bullish order flow that's in control to mitigate deeper areas of supply. Okay, so yeah, price at the moment is reacting. It's actually just swept all of this liquidity. I mean, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, nearly 7 taps on a support line, which has just been swept to the downside in more deeper areas of demand ranges that is currently in control. Okay, so really nice demand zone over here, the price mitigated off of. We've then had this internal break of structure to the upside after the mitigation of the demand, which signals demand is in control. We can continue to run bullish from here. So most recently, demand areas that would be in control is we have actually this entire demand fractal range. So this is the lowest demand fractal range that had this internal break of structure to the upside. Okay, so this would be your extreme. Looking at 2-box entries, well, firstly, before we go into the 2-box, if price pulls back further into this demand, valid to look for those longs to continue targeting these internal week highs and potentially even the overall M15 week high. Okay, so if we react to 2-box, we can see at the moment that fractal structure is bearish, but understanding that price is catering for that M15 internal pullback into M15 demand areas that is currently in control. That's why it's so important to have an understanding of your overall structure before just trading 2-box, because if you're just trading 2-box here, price over here is immediately just bearish for you. But it's important to have that understanding that this is just a pullback phase before we look to go long. Why not pick the lower demand, since top is like the inducement? Oh, you're talking about this demand area over here? Yeah, so this would be your range, this would be your refined candle over here. Yeah, so both is valid. If this demand zone forms the necessary liquidity, so if price kind of just moves slowly and creates all of this trend line liquidity for this demand would then be valid to look for longs. If price just continues to pull back sharply into this demand, then there's good probability that this inducement will be swept into the extreme demand to then look for longs. So yeah, Again, whenever you mark out a POI, if you stuck, let's say, with 2 POIs like this, as long as the most recent POI has all 4 of your criteria, so that's the inefficient push, the liquidity must cause the break of structure or change of character, and must be unmitigated, then it's a valid demand zone to look for longs. Okay. So yeah, 2-box system at the moment. We had this morning going into session, a break of structure to the upside over here, but I always like to look at the most recent box going into session. Would have been this box over here. So going into London, I would have looked for price to either break structure to the upside or structure to the downside. Okay, so price is now broken that structure to the downside, which puts us with a valid wick zone over here and also valid extreme supply zones over here. Okay, so if price pulls back into these areas of supply, there's sufficient trend line liquidity over here that price is busy creating. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4 taps at the moment. So we can expect this to be swept and then swept to the downside as well of areas of supply. Okay, so valid to look for shorts, but understanding this is just riding a internal pullback into deeper areas of demand before continuing with the expectational order flow to target these M15 internal weak highs. Okay. All right, you guys happy with XAU USD? Viral trade. I hope the explanation of these 2 demand areas answers your question. Okay, awesome. Let's move on to US30. We can have a look at what the indices are doing today. So M15 time frame. Most recently, we have had, we targeted those weak highs last week Thursday. So that was our valid M15 boss. Although, so on the stream last week Wednesday, I know we marked this out as an M15 weak high, but it wasn't an official weak high yet because it never created any internal break of structure to the downside. So in that scenario, expectation is just to continue targeting the interim weak highs until we had the internal shift to the downside. So this was the low after the pullback that then created the next break of structure to the upside and then broke that internal low to the downside. So this then can become our official M15 week high. Okay, so expectational order flow is still to continue targeting these weak highs. Our M15 swing strong still remains the same. Okay, we then have valid areas of demand. All right, a real extreme, a more recent extreme. Price at the moment is just swept all of this liquidity, reacting off fair value gaps. And over here, we have perfect double bottom liquidity. So one of 2 things can happen from here. We can either continue bearish of areas of supply over here. So we could sweep this inducement to then continue bearish to sweep this liquidity into areas of demand before then continue targeting those M15 weak highs. Okay. But yeah, again, this morning, I don't think price action will be extremely volatile. These areas of supply up here, for me, would not really be 100% valid, simply because it didn't create any break of structure. So price pullback created these supplies, but didn't create the break of structure to the downside. So these supply zones don't match or aren't valid because they only hold 3 out of our 4 criteria. So yes, it has the inefficient push, it's unmitigated, it has liquidity, but it has not created a break of structure. So therefore, this for me becomes liquidity to be swept into more valid supply areas. Potentially this entire supply fractal range. Candles aren't very clean over here, but also understanding that the M15 highs are weak. So the expectation is still to look for longs. Okay. So at the moment, if we have a look at 2-box, we can hop down onto fractal structure. This morning, so we're just following this through. We had this 1-hour break of structure to the upside that pulled back into 5-minute fractal demands, creating that 1-hour fractal break of structure to the upside and continuing to target these fractal highs. Okay, fractal break, fractal pullback into demand ranges to continue long. So we've now had this break of structure, valid demand area over here, so potentially that pullback to continue long, riding that fractal bullish order flow. Let's just quickly update this. So yeah, this would be a valid demand to look for longs to continue targeting these fractal highs. Okay, so yeah, you guys happy with USD and the order flow that it's giving? How your settings on the HTF indicator. So I've got my boxes just set to like a light gray. Wicks 80% transparency. The body is a full 100% transparency. Higher time frame 1 hour. So each and every one of these boxes that you see right here is your 1 hour fractal structure. Okay. So this just gives you an understanding of what is currently in control going into session, but also important to understand with your M15 swing and your 3 structure types. Okay. Sweet. I'm sure we can look at 1 or 2 more other pairs. Is there any other pair that you guys would like to look at? We will cover more pairs in depth tomorrow morning because price will have a bit of movement today. So obviously we'll need to update that tomorrow morning. But yeah, I definitely won't be trading today as US session starts in a couple of hours. So there's no real point in trading London unless you're quick in and out scalping. But yeah, let's do, okay, GJ, USD CAD, and BTC. We can do those 3. GBP JPY, 4 hour time frame. Just going to quickly see where we are. Okay. Let me just quickly neaten this up. Yeah, so GBP JPY most recently has just created that 4 hour break of structure to the upside, created by this 4 hour strong low. So price had that pullback and then created that next break of structure, this being the lowest point after the previous pullback, which makes this a strong low. Okay, price started that pullback with that M15 internal swing break of structure to the downside, where we can mark out our valid 4 hour week high. Price had that internal pullback into areas of supply to continue targeting these weak lows and potentially riding more of that 4 hour pullback into deeper areas of demand before looking to go long. Okay, so M15 time frame, most recently we've had this M15 swing break of structure to the downside, which was only over here at this body candle closure. Okay, this can become our M15 strong high. And this can become our M15 week low. So expectations going into this week, understanding that price is in that 4 hour pullback phase, is potentially to continue short, targeting these weak lows and this double bottom liquidity, which is also inducement for deeper areas of the higher time frame demand. Okay, valid areas of supply that's valid in the M15 swing strong. So again, the best way to determine your POIs in a scenario like this, you'll have one here, you'll have one potentially here, and even maybe an extreme one all the way up here. So in this scenario, what I usually do is I'll take my fib tool, mark out the discount, equilibrium, and premium equilibrium and discount, and I'll mark out my first area of supply. Ignore these 2 for now. If we get clear confirmation of the supply area, valid to look for shorts. If price fails these supply zones, then price will most likely pull back into deeper areas of supply to then look for confirms. So we start off with 1, look for confirms, react from price. If no entry, wait for price to follow through to the deeper areas of supply. Okay, so this is a valid supply zone that created this M15 break of structure. All of this fair value gaps and inefficiency, all of this becomes liquidity for this zone. So yeah, it's 100% valid. Going into 2 box, all right, understanding that price is in the M15 pullback phase, the fractal structure is currently bullish. So this morning before session, we had this fractal break to the upside, the pullback into these areas of demand to go long. We then continued with this fractal break of structure to the upside, okay, putting these areas of demand in control. We've just had this fractal break of structure to the upside, which can put this demand fractal range in control. If your zone is quite big, all right, and you're looking for longs like this and your risk to reward isn't too great, what you can do is you can mark out the 50% and look for confirms at the 50% to tighten that RR. So from going from the top of the zone to the 50%, we've nearly doubled our risk to reward from 1.9 to 3.5. Okay, so yeah, GBP JPY currently in that M15 pullback phase. Fractal structure is just continuing bullish, understanding it's the M15 pullback phase into deeper areas of supply before then looking for those confirms to go short. Okay, so you're happy with GBP JPY? Going into, well, session tomorrow, what we can expect from tomorrow, and maybe a little bit in today's London session. Okay, you're welcome. You're welcome. We can then cover USD CAD and BTC USD. Okay, USD CAD. I still have a lot of Koki pens from the previous stream. I'm going to quickly remove this to neaten this up. What settings, when setting your position, do you also consider ICT numbers? What do you mean by ICT numbers? You're talking about the FIB, the FIB OTE? OTE stands for optimal trade entry. Oh no, not that. I don't really trade ICT, so I'm not 100% familiar with everything. I've backtested a lot of it. For example, 1.0, 1.050. Are you talking about the stop loss and TPs with spread and incorporating that into your stop loss size? Is that what you mean? Do you mean when you say ICT numbers, the session times? Round numbers, it's called. No, well, to answer your question, no, I don't look at that. I just mark up my trade plan and react from there. Just keeping things as simple as possible, really. You'll probably find some of the most successful traders out there use some of the most simplest of strategies. But no, I don't use round numbers. All right, cool. Let's continue with USD CAD. So USD CAD 4-hour time frame. We're still reacting off those 4-hour strong high supply zones. So most recently we had that 4-hour break of structure to the downside, that 4-hour pullback into areas of supply. Price then created that internal 4-hour shift to the to the downside, which is now mitigating off or reacting off these areas of supply. Just to quickly double check the daily. Yeah, so the daily is also bearish. So yeah, one of two things can happen here, because this is a very extreme push to the upside. There's a bit of probability that price can actually take out this 4-hour strong and actually shift your entire 4-hour swing structure, but we don't have to worry about that now. We'll react when price actually does that, and if price fails these supplies. So if price, for example, fails the supply, there's a good chance then price will just continue targeting that 4-hour strong. But expectational order flow at the moment on the M15 is still for price to continue bearish, targeting these M15 lows and the internal lows, understanding that we are at the 4-hour strong high and that our 4-hour lows are also week. Okay, so over here, right now we've had the M15 strong break to the downside, which then becomes our M15 bars. The highest point over here then becomes our M15. We can just remove this internal strong. Becomes now an M15 swing strong level. Okay, so valid areas of supply would be this entire supply, fractal range, which is what price is currently mitigating off of, and then our more refined valid supply zone over here, which is this candle here. Okay, so yeah, for us to confirm if the 4-hour swing structure is going to go and target those week lows, we want to see this M15 week low go. Then that is a confirmation that we have definitely shifted bearish, because at the moment this could potentially be just a sweep of all of this liquidity to continue that bullishness. But yeah, right now we've had the fractal, or the internal break of structure to the fractal break of structure to the downside, which put this supply in last week Friday in control, which also has all of this liquidity over here. So we could potentially see a mitigation into the supply to continue targeting these fractal lows. Okay, if we have a look at 2-box structure on the 5 minutes with our 1-hour fractal structure going into session this morning, we had this break of structure to the upside, putting this demand area, well, this becomes your entire demand fractal range, which we never got that pullback into. That's okay. We then had a slight pullback over here, created this fractal break of structure to the upside, which puts this area of demand in control. So this would have been your entire demand range. This would have been your refined candle. Okay, so if you took triple M in the demand entire range, you would have had good opportunity for longs. We've then had this fractal break of structure to the upside, no real pullback into the demand areas that is in control. Okay, so going into session today, demand was quite heavily in control. Price will most likely want to actually sweep this liquidity here into the refined supply zone. Okay, because this becomes inducement for the refined 4-hour candle before potentially continuing bearish. If we then have that shift, then it's valid to look for those shorts after that pullback into mitigation of supply areas. Okay, so yeah, USD CAD at the moment is a little bit not as clean to my liking, but then again, it's all just a reaction to what price does. So if price fails these supplies, most likely we'll get that 4-hour swing strong break to the upside. If price reacts off these supplies and continues to create these internal breaks of structures, we most likely will see that M15 week low go to the downside. Okay. You guys happy with USD CAD? Can we move on to BTC USD? Okay, let's move on to BTC. Let's just check the 4-hour. Then when last I've marked this up. Yeah, so BTC USD, most recently we had the daily break of structure to the upside. This actually is our 4-hour as well. All right, so let's just quickly change this. The last time I did BTC was quite a while back in one of the previous streams, but the daily structure over here is also our 4-hour structure. Okay, yeah, so most recently we had the 4-hour strong low, take out the previous week high. We started that 4-hour pullback. We have then now mitigated into real extreme areas of demand. So if price continues throughout this week and potentially next week and takes out this, which would be an M15 swing high to the upside, then there's potentially confirmation for price to continue targeting those 4-hour week highs. Okay, if price continues bearish and taking out these lows without taking out the highs, there's a good opportunity for price to take out the 4-hour strong lows and continue potentially with more of a weekly pullback. Okay, so even on the weekly time frame, structure applies. Weekly break of structure, weekly pullback into deep areas of demand to potentially continue targeting these weak highs in the next couple, maybe even decade or so, as the Bitcoin halving comes through. Okay. So yeah, if we have a look long back at BTC, again, it's just, well, there was not really structure before 2017. Those breaks of structures, pullback, break of structure, pullback, that bullish run, pullback into areas of demand to continue targeting those weak highs. So structure has applied on all markets and time frames since day one. It's how banks, financial institutions fulfill their orders in the market. Okay, so very interesting to watch these markets play out, especially when you go years back. I mean, if you go to XAU USD, just a quick example, we'll continue with BTC now. If we come back, I think we can come all the way back to the 80s or the 70s. If this chart will even update. No, it only takes me back to 2012. It could be because it's a different feed. Let's just try Oanda. Yeah, so Oanda takes me back all the way to the 70s, and you'll see a structure plays out. That break of structure, those pullbacks into areas of demand, continuing to target those weak highs. Internally, break of structure, pullback, break of structure, pullback, break of structure, pullback, break of structure, pullback, break of structure, pullback. It's how the markets flow and how the markets fulfill orders. I mean, this is back all the way in 79 when people used to trade on pieces of paper, and you go to the bank and you submit your trades via a piece of paper. That's just how order flow has continued and existed since day one. Okay, yeah, so continuing with BTC, a little bit sidetracked there. Coming back to the M15 time frame. Okay, let's just quickly mark out that 4-hour POI and remove these Koki pins so it's not in our way. There we go. There we go. So our 4-hour extreme areas of demand would have been this entire 4-hour demand fractal range, which you could have refined to these candles over here. Okay, as this acts as double bottom liquidity, so potentially there's opportunity for price to sweep all of this into these demands. And if we take out that M15 swing high, then there's opportunity to go long, and price could even potentially want to target these 4-hour week highs. Okay. Let me just remove all of these old POIs. We can then come back to the M15 time frame, and most recently we have created the M15 break of structure to the upside. Okay. Created by this M15 swing strong low. I just want to double check that is indeed just a wick. Yeah, that's not a break of structure. Let's just make this straight. There we go. So that becomes our M15 swing strong and our M15 week high all the way up here. Okay. Internally wise, most recently we have created this M15 internal break of structure to the upside, created by our M15 internal strong low, which leaves behind our M15 internal weak high. Okay, so the whole bias of XAU USD is understanding that price is currently at 4-hour strong low levels in deep areas of demand. That is what price is currently reacting off of. In order for these demand levels to hold and look for confirmation for price to target the 4-hour week highs, we want to see this M15 week high and continue with that order flow to go bullish. If price takes out the strong low, okay, and doesn't give confirmation of this demand, there's then good confirmation that the 4-hour strong low will go to the downside. Okay, But yeah, that's just longer term speculation. Let's have a look at what we can expect just going into tomorrow and the rest of this week. Okay, so we still have our 4-hour M15 internal strong lows, price busy mitigating the extreme demand levels. All right, then created that fractal, change of character to the upside, that fractal pullback into areas of demand. So price now potentially ready to continue with this bullish and demand chain to continue targeting those internal weak highs, reacting off the higher time frame demands. Also understanding that our M15 swing highs are weak as well. Okay, so going into session, we can then have a look at our fractal structure, which if we come over to the 5-minute, okay, this morning we most recently had this fractal break of structure to the upside, price busy pulling back into, yeah, so this could have been your demand fractal range, price never pulled back into your POI, refined candle, and we've now broken that structure to fractally to the upside. Remember, fractal structure can be a wick, putting these demand areas in control over here. Okay, so we could potentially see continuation of these demand areas to continue targeting those fractal weak highs and potentially even the internal M15 weak high. Okay, you guys happy with BTC USD? If price fails these demand levels, potentially then could see just a pullback into deeper areas of demand before looking for that confirm, or price could just want to completely continue lower to sweep all of this liquidity here and here into the deeper areas of demand. Okay, you guys happy with BTC USD? Just wanted to tell us ICT uses round numbers. Oh, I see what you're saying about the round numbers. No, I've never looked at that or considered that in my trade plan. Okay. Awesome stuff, guys. Then I think we can call the end of the stream. We've covered enough pairs. As I said, I don't think price is going to be doing too much in London session today. We can actually just check some of the other pairs. Yeah, so it's just continuing very slowly. It's pretty much going to be like this the whole day. So I'm only going to look at trading tomorrow. But yeah, we'll leave this marked out, see what it does. And in tomorrow morning stream, we can then update from what we've covered this morning. Alright guys, thanks for joining the stream. I hope you guys got some good value. I hope you're learning a lot from the course content, backtesting the concepts, and also seeing it in action as it plays out in the streams and as we mark it up live.